Welcome to this week's edition of Let's Talk on Win TV. I'm your host, Denise Rolark Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer. I am so glad to have you all here today. I don't know if you all know, but yesterday, 10/16, was this year, 2025? 10/16/2025, the Washington Informer turned 61 years old. Now, I'm not giving out lottery numbers. I'm just telling y'all that we turned 61 years old yesterday. And if you pick up a copy of yesterday's Informer, for some reason, I feel like it may have some historic value to it as we, try to figure out the things that may make money for us one day, because this is a financial literacy issue. But that issue, you're only going to be that age, but 61 on 10/16 one time. So think about that. And I want to thank all of you all who have really supported the Washington Informer over the past years. You may not have been supporting over the past 61 years, but your support, your readership, your donations, your advertising, everything that you've done has helped the Washington Informer to continue. And I just wanted to say briefly, thank you, thank you, thank you. And now we are in our, seventh season of Let's Talk, Chevy? We're still in our sixth season of Let's Talk. It's a lot of sixes going on here. But anyway, we're in our sixth season of Let's Talk, and I am so happy to have to celebrate that, even during these very, very difficult times. Because as you all know, today is the 16th day of the federal government shutdown. Now, we've seen this before. We know that in President Trump's prior administration, we had a 35-day shutdown, which was the longest government shutdown in history. And senior reporter Stacey Brown wrote an article in this week's issue of the Washington Informer about the closing of the Smithsonian museums. It's sad to see that there are tourists that are coming to Washington, D.C. The bulk of where we make our money is through tourism in the city, and folks are coming and there's nothing to see. And so we're going to continue to cover how this shutdown is impacting particularly D.C. residents, which is one reason why we're having this show today. We also wanted to share with you that it's been reported that the Capital Area Food Bank will be extending its service hours for the growing number of furloughed workers that are in need of food. So make sure that if you are one of those individuals, you reach out to the Capital Area Food Bank because they want to keep their doors open to support people so that hunger doesn't become a bigger issue during the shutdown. And we also heard that Verizon is offering payment plans to affected customers. So I'm saying all that to say that, during these times, we can't let pride stay in the way or stand in the way from talking to the companies that we do business with, who we're going to owe our landlords, our utility companies, you name it. We need to find out what kind of emergency services they're going to be offering to help those furloughed workers who are going to need assistance. I know we always say, we shouldn't be living paycheck to paycheck, but that's the reality for so many people. And that's why I'm excited, again, to have our guests who are going to be with us today. First, we're going to be talking to Hermond Palmer, who is the Senior Vice President of Outreach and Engagement at the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, who's going to give us some tips and advice about financial literacy and sustaining wealth in our community, but more so sustaining wealth in your household. Hermond has been an expert in that, traveling around the country, and he has some great advice, some new, some advice we already know, but during this particular time, we may need to hear again. And also, I'm excited to welcome Melanee Woodard, who's the Vice President and Strategic Marketing Manager at Industrial Bank. And Melanie's going to share some interesting tips, I think, that we don't always focus in on. And that's tips on budgeting for the single parent. Now, I didn't say single mother. I said for the single parent, because we know we have a lot of single dads out there as well. So she's going to be offering some tips that I think will be helpful. And then we're going to close out this week's show with an interview by business reporter James Wright, who's talking with Raven Paris and Tony Parker They are the collaborators and sponsors of a wealth summit on bridging the gap between financial literacy and minority communities coming up here in the nation's capital. So we have a full show today. We hope that you will enjoy it. Before we start our discussions, though, I want to remind you to make sure you pick up a copy of this week's Washington Informer. Again, what can I say? We're talking about individuals, and we're a company, right, that has to also try to survive this government shutdown and all the aspects of it that impact this local community. But we're still publishing, folks. So make sure you pick up a copy of the Washington Informer. There's some great news in there. We're going to make sure that we provide tips for you to keep you to help to sustain you through this government shutdown and all the other issues that are impacting our community. And while you're watching today's broadcast, we hope that you will share it on your social media channels and connect us with on Facebook, on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Washington Informer TV, where you can watch some of the past shows of Let's Talk, as well as some other great programs that we have there for you to access. Trying to figure out the words. The language of digital is somewhat new to me, and I'm still trying to get it right. But you can go to YouTube and watch a lot of our programs there, and we hope that you will. Something you may have missed, something that you may want to share. And then again, some of our program recaps. So today, we're unpacking stories highlighted in last week's financial literacy supplement. And every November, even though we know April is Financial Literacy Month, we like to do our financial literacy issue in October. I think the science or the belief on our team for doing that is just making sure that as we go into the holidays, as we go into the new year, that we think a little bit more strategically about how we spend our money, how we save our money, how we use our money. And so October is the time that we do that. And last week we had a wonderful financial literacy supplement, and our guests actually wrote articles in that issue. So I hope that you will pick up a copy that will help you to understand things about balancing your grocery bills, your utility bills, housing, school needs, and all of that. So anyway, I'm going to move on. I want to welcome Hermond Palmer, who's the Senior Vice President of Outreach and Engagement at the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. Hermond, welcome to Let's Talk.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I want to stop talking because you're the man with all the information that folks need to hear for at this particular time. And I talked about why we do financial literacy in October. I'm not sure why April was chosen. Is it April as financial literacy month?
There might be, because that's when people get their bonuses and their tax refund checks.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I still believe October is a good month because, you won't be so desperate to have to use that money to pay bills and do other things if you're planning ahead of time, right?
Exactly. Okay. And it gets you ready for the shopping season so that you shop responsibly.
Exactly. So tell me, we talk a little bit about financial freedom. That those words sometimes don't even seem to go together because most people think about financial debt and the restraints on their lives and their pocketbooks when they don't really think about their finances. But what does that mean to you?
Financial freedom is about having the ability to choose, to live where you want to live, shop where you want to shop, and have access to grocery stores, pharmacies, hospitals, and also to allow you to do what you want to do. It can be difficult, but you want to make sure that you have the resources available to you so that you can choose. And that starts with saving and investing, because those are key bridges that move people from survival mode, living paycheck to paycheck, to lasting financial security. Savings builds stability. It's about creating breathing room. When you save regularly, even small amounts, you start to protect yourself from financial shocks that can keep you trapped in a paycheck to paycheck cycle. And it allows you to help in three ways. One, you want to have an emergency cushion. That's where, car repair, health issue, you want to have about $500 to $1,000 to start. It gives you peace of mind so that you have the knowledge knowing that you've got a buffer to reduce the stress if an emergency happens. And it helps build momentum so that consistent savings builds discipline and confidence, which is the foundation for investing later. And lastly, I'll say it's the mindset. Most importantly, saving and investing change your relationship with money from being reactive to being proactive. Instead of wondering how to make ends meet, you start asking, how can I make my money grow?
I think a couple things you said made me think back a long time ago when they used to have those Christmas savings plans.
Oh, yeah.
The department stores.
Yes.
And I realized, every year is in my teens and early adult years, I never had any money around Christmas time, and you're trying to buy gifts for people or what have you. And I finally decided, let me start putting, was it $10 or $25 away a month. And I was so excited. It gave me such a great feeling by November that I had a couple $100, and so
baby steps help. Baby steps count. And you start, the longer you have, the less you have to contribute, because then you start to build the momentum. And when you see the progress you're making, you get excited because you know you're in control.
So, Hermond, one of the questions, since we've been publishing The Informer and we've been doing a lot on financial literacy and talking to banks and other institutions, and even yourself, you talking to you, do you see the needle moving? Because we still have this, major wealth gap in the Black community. And I'm just wondering, what are you seeing? And if it's not, why not?
I do see the needle moving. It's just not moving fast enough. And I see it moving in certain areas, but not in other areas. It's almost like Juneteenth. Some of the folks got the word they were free, and they acted on that freedom. Others didn't know. And so it took 2 years for them to get that word. We need to understand that we have equal access to those resources, those institutions that allow us to take care of us. Savings, for example, saving money creates a safety net that breaks the cycle of financial crisis, debt dependence, and limited choices. Without savings, families are forced to borrow during emergencies, and often through high interest loans, payday lenders, and credit cards, which erodes our wealth over time. So for us, we have to make sure that we build our financial literacy, that we share it, that we don't assume people know. One of the things that we're taught is don't talk about your financial situation. Don't put your business in the street. And secondly, especially don't put your financial business in the street. And if we follow that, I understand the logic behind it, but how will you learn? How do you know where help is? How do you know what works if you don't share what works? How do you know where to go? What trusted resources are that exist? So the needle is moving. We just have to share success early and often and be more open to taking advantage of those established, vetted resources that help us to make the progress that we're looking for.
So when you say the needle's moving, is it a certain population group that you're talking about? Is it a certain geographic area? Where do you see that needle moving?
I see it moving, like, for example, in the people who are taking advantage of knowledge, who are building their financial literacy, those who are had enough and said, you know what, I'm done with this. I need help. And they ask for help. And then when they get it and it works, they're actually surprised. And there's a part of them that says, I didn't know. I didn't know this was out here. I didn't think I could transform my situation because it's lack of knowledge. The Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. That knowledge is critical. Knowledge is power. Knowledge over your financial That's a superpower. The trick is how to navigate the different scams that are out there. And so the needle moves for the people who know where to go to get the information they need to act on the insights offered and take control of their finances. And that's
Well,
across the country.
yeah, you just triggered something, but I won't go there now. But there are a lot of predators out there. You're right. You know, there are a lot of predators out there. And what I would ask though is trusted sources. I mean, I'm glad that you're here with us today, and that you share information widely, not only with the Washington Informer but other places. And so people will begin to know you and your association as a trusted source. But where should people go to get that kind of information, so that they become better educated and better informed?
So I'm a staunch advocate for trusted vetted resources. So you in Washington, especially, we have the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You can go to their website. If you are having issues related to housing, you could go to HUD. That they're having issues with the current administration, but
Yes.
You can go to my organization. I work for the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. So you can go to nfcc.org. We are a HUD certified nonprofit counseling intermediary. What we do is we help people fix their credit. We help them stay in their homes or in their apartments. We help them understand the difference between their business account and their personal accounts. And we do it as a HUD certified nonprofit. That nonprofit part is key because it says we are not here to make a profit. We are here for your benefit. Now, I'm going to be quick to say that. Would I love you to come to my organization? Yes. But there are others out there that do exactly what we do. But the important words are HUD certified nonprofit counseling. And you can get the qualified agencies through the CFPB or HUD's website. So you don't have to worry about people being there or not being there. Just go to their website and you can get the information, and they can direct you to trusted resources. Don't be so quick to rush up to TikTok or YouTube or whatnot, because not everybody who says they're an expert is actually an expert. They're just out there trying to win clicks so they can sell ads.
And those clicks sometimes lead to solicitations from people organizations that really don't have your best interest in mind. So I appreciate that. And I'm also thinking right now, Hermond, as we are going through this period, the stressful period for so many with his government shutdown. I mean, I think it's been 3 weeks. I think there's some people now who are not getting their paychecks, not knowing whether they're actually going to get that money once the government opens up again. Some of them won't even have jobs. I mean, this hadn't happened so suddenly. What are you telling that community out there? What are you saying to them?
I would tell them to, 1, I'm sorry. 2, as difficult as this might be, take a step back, take a breath, and start to plan. Get yourself together. Hopefully, you've developed an emergency fund. This would be an opportunity to take that. But tap into the resources that I just illustrated for you. Tap into a HUD certified nonprofit counseling agency. They can help you contact, for example, if you have a home and a mortgage to service, they can help you contact your servicer and negotiate some forbearance where you can maybe have time off from paying your mortgage. You're still going to want to have to pay that amount, but they may give you a month or 2 months grace, and they put that on the back end. You may have an issue where you never really budgeted before. Well, now is the best time to do that. So understand the difference between your wants and your needs. Absolutely pay your wants and start negotiating with your creditors. Hey, look, I've had a reduction in hours worked. I want to meet my obligations. Can you work with me? Can we just have a 30-day, 90-day reprieve, and then I'll start making extra payments when I'm back on my feet? You can negotiate anything. I'm going to say that again. You can negotiate anything. Some of something is more than all of nothing, and people understand. It's in the news all day, every day. So I would hope that people would be more likely to help you navigate this difficult, rough patch until you can get to smoother sailing.
We just came through COVID, which also had an impact on folks. And you think about the people that were living in renters, right, who were given a reprieve from paying their rent, never paid the rent, not knowing what you just said was critical about your mortgage, that, they may give you relief, but at some point you're going to have to pay that money. So,
Absolutely.
and what I'm talking doom and gloom right now, but it's a reality that there may be a period where people who are, have a certain income will lose their health benefits, right? And so this is even more of a critical time to have something.
So
Go ahead.
if I can,
Yeah, please.
this highlights the importance to having forced savings. And when I say forced savings, when you own a home and you make a payment, you're paying part of the loan, and the amount of the loan, the total loan obligation, you no longer owe. That's equity in your house. That equity is like a piggy bank that you can tap into in difficult times. Here's the reality that our community needs to know. People who own homes oftentimes have more options in difficult times than people who rent. Why? Because renters don't have equity. Homeowners do. Here's another thing. When you save for your retirement, you always want to keep that money for when you retire. But if you have a challenging situation that arises, if you have to, and you have your retirement savings, you can start tapping into that. You are going to have to pay interest. And if you're younger than 59 and a half years old, you'll have to pay a penalty. But that's still money that's available to you if you find yourself in a difficult situation. So it is important that we adopt a behavior of saving for something, saving for an emergency fund, saving for a home, saving for retirement, saving for a college education if we have young ones. But we have to adopt the mindset of saving. That helps us down the road.
Are there any rules you just when you talked about, your mortgage, if you're a homeowner, that you can tap into that? And, some people do a lot of tapping, if you know
Yeah.
what I mean, right? So what are the rules on that? I mean, is that something when and how often?
Okay. The rules, I think, should be personalized. It depends on your personal appetite. For me, I really don't tap into my retirement or my home unless I have to, or unless I get to a point where I'm like, okay, yeah, I could do that. And if I do it strategically, because, for example, if you get a home equity loan, some of that interest expense is tax deductible. So now you're getting access to that money and you're creating a tax deduction for yourself potentially. If you borrow from retirement, the challenge is that you're going to have to pay the interest on that. And depending upon your age, as I discussed earlier, you may have to pay an early withdrawal penalty. So make that the last thing that you tap into. And it depends on what you're tapping into it for. If it's an emergency, you don't have a choice. Well, it's described in the situation. You don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. But if it's discretionary, like I want to take that vacation, all right, you're going to be a vacation for what? 5 days, 7 days, but you're going to own that financial obligation, that payback for several months, maybe even several years. So you're financing that vacation over a period of years, where if you had just opened up an account to save for that for that vacation over a year or two, you'd be far better off.
I appreciate you taking so much time with us today, because, I got a couple more questions. One, I want to talk to you a little bit about, the conversation everybody has when we talk about generational wealth, and the fact that within our community, a lot of that wealth is not being passed on to the next generation because of the lack of wills and trusts. So let's talk about that a little bit. How important are those? And, what should folks do to make sure? Is there a time? I mean, you're 20 years old. Hopefully we have a 20-year-old watching this show, or 25.
Yes.
But is it too young to think about that? Or, when do we start putting these things in place?
So I have learned through attorney Amy Griffin that it is never too early to start talking about your estate And your estate plan should be composed of 4 items. It should be your will, your power of attorney, your medical directive, where if you are incapacitated and somebody has to make decisions for you, what do you want those decisions to be? And then your trust. You want to have all that. And as soon as you have assets, if you have a car, certainly if you have a home, it's time to really start talking about having an estate plan. Unfortunately, we know that 70% of African Americans do not have a will or an estate plan. What that means is if Big Mama would have died, we don't know who gets the house, who gets the furniture, who gets her jewelry, who gets the car. And what happens is the family comes together and they start arguing. Oh, well, she wanted me to have that. She wanted me to have that. And all of a sudden, before you know it, there's bad blood. And this one's not talking to that one. And all of a sudden, the house is not being, nobody's paying the taxes. And so we lose the house, we lose the car, and we lose relationships forever. All because somebody did not take the time to say, all right, I'm going to capture my wishes in a legal document and tell everybody what I want to happen, who gets what, and who I want making decisions for me if I'm ill, and whether or not I want somebody to pull the plug. Here's an example. If Big Mama's sick, doctors come and say she's not going to recover, and son number 1 says, okay, pull the plug. Well, son number 2 and 3 say, no, don't pull the plug. They pull the plug. Now, sons 2 and 3 are mad at son number 1 because he pulled the plug, knowing that she wasn't going to recover. That was the advice of the medical professionals, and they're saying you killed Mama, and that wasn't the case. Big Mama needs to capture her thoughts in a document. The other thing that we need to pay attention to is we actually are in the midst of undergoing the largest transfer of wealth in human history. Let me say that again. One generation is dying off and leaving their assets to the next generation. And 70% of us don't have a will or an estate plan. That opens us up to financial risk and personal risk. We have to take care of our documentation, our wishes, and make them known. We got to talk about it. We also have to educate our young people about what happens. So many times, little ones see mom and dad going to an ATM thinking, oh, I just need a card. I go to the magic machine, put it in, press a couple numbers, money comes out. They don't see necessarily the money going in. So I've had 2 situations where people said, their young one said, well, let's go to so-and-so. Well, I can't, baby, it's not in the budget. But you got more checks. They just thought all you had to do is write checks. They didn't know there was money behind that. Another situation, go to the ATM, boom, get the money. And child says, well, can we go to so-and-so? Well, no, I don't have the money for it right now. Well, the ATM is right there. Just go over there and get the money. We have to educate our young people so that they understand and appreciate what goes into maintaining the household financially, so that they can embrace the idea of saving, of investing, having our money work for us.
No, I think that is that I wanted you to go through that whole piece because I think people do need to hear that. And, so many people just believe that, well, want to leave it up to them. I'm out of here, I'm gone. And so being able to, and I also wanted to mention, you talked about Amy Griffin. I want people to know that she also publishes a monthly article in the Washington Informer that provides a lot of information and recommendations for wills and estates. And so we hope that people are taking advantage of that. But yeah, I mean, I heard something not too long ago where the fastest growing population is 85 years old and older in America, the fastest growing population. And of course, that population is living longer thanks to medicine.
Yep.
But it's living longer, sicker, thanks to medicine.
Right.
And so, again, as that population dies off, that's where that statistic that you brought up comes in. because they are the ones that need to have, well, I don't want to just put it on them. Anybody, as you said, needs to make sure that they have their wishes documented. But with that growing population, I can see where that transfer of wealth, where that comes from.
Yep. Can I also say, since we're talking about older folks,
Yeah.
And people are in the mindset that Social Security is going to be enough for me to sustain me in retirement. Let me be the one to tell you, and I'm not trying to be mean, I just want you to understand that is not the case. Planning for retirement beyond Social Security is crucial, because despite what people think, Social Security benefits alone very often are not enough to maintain your desired lifestyle after you stop working. On average, Social Security replaces about 30 to 40% of a person's pre-retirement income. And that leaves a significant gap between what you receive and what you need to cover the essential expenses like housing, healthcare, which is going to be a big deal, and daily living expenses. So that's why it's important that we save and invest through retirement accounts like 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, Roth IRAs, so that we can build personal wealth that can supplement Social Security, provide financial independence, and protect us against inflation and unexpected costs later in life.
I'm glad you brought that up, because as one who, has always worked for, the family business, we didn't always have the same kinds of benefits that, say, government employees have, pensions and all that. So, yeah, I mean, and I'm glad starting early, I took advantage of that. But even today, I look at what's in there and thinking, if I live to be 100 years old, I'm going to be short, Yeah. So starting early, starting in your 20s to set up those retirement accounts really makes a lot of sense. Even if it's $25 a month. I keep going 25. We got $25 because I saw the line outside of the Chris Brown concert last week.
There you go.
Those tickets weren't cheap. That's at least 5 months of money going into a retirement account. So,
and if you start early, the earlier you start, the harder that money works for you over time. Let me give you an example. Some people say, I can't afford to save for retirement today. No, you can't afford not to. Why? Because you can finance a house, you can finance a car, you can finance a business. You cannot finance your retirement. And if you were to invest, say, $10,000 at age 45 and earn an average annual return of 7% just on that $10,000, that investment could grow to about $38,000 by age 65 without adding anything else. Now that's $10,000 at 45. Imagine if you start $10,000 at 22. That is big. Start as soon as you can. And when you have an investment vehicle where your employer matches, absolutely pour in everything you can to get the maximum that they match to. So they'll say, we'll match 50 cents on a dollar up to 2 or 3% or even 5% of your salary. Make it your mission to get that 5% in that investment vehicle, because that's an immediate and instant return that will work for you over time.
Wow. Hermond, I'm sorry we have to go because you're giving such valuable information. But as a nonprofit, that's your job, and that's what you want to make sure that we share with our community. I'm really happy, that you were able to be here and to share this during our financial literacy issue. But, throughout the year, having you on from time to time, I think is extremely helpful.
I would love to do it. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor. Thank you. Yeah. And I wish everybody well. Manage your money. Don't let your money manage you.
All right. Take care. Thanks, Hermond.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye. And so now it's my pleasure. I hope y'all heard this. And the thing is, this was recorded. So if you missed something, once it's uploaded to our YouTube channel or whatever you're saving it to, you can always go back to it, get that information, and reach out to a trusted advisor who can help you, even if you're on public assistance, whatever your situation is. It's not too hard with the help and counsel of someone who you trust to figure out how to save for your future and then for your children's future. And speaking of your future, want to talk now to Melanee Woodard, who is the Vice President and Strategic Marketing Manager at Industrial Bank here in Washington, D.C., our Black-owned bank, not only in D.C., but D.C. and Maryland. Are you all in Virginia, Melanee?
No, not Virginia, but we're also in New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey, and Harlem, New York.
All right. All right. The growth of the Black Bank Institution. I'm so excited to hear that. And B. Doyle, third generation, correct?
Yes, third generation. Yes.
Yeah.
His grandfather started the bank. Yep.
Exactly. So, and full disclosure, we're proud to be one of your customers. So,
Yes,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much. So, tell me, Melanee, what drew you to focus on financial literacy and budgeting for single parent households?
Well, actually, from personal experience, I became a single mom when my daughter was 5 years old. She's now 38, and that was both a pain point and a learning experience for me, raising her as a single parent and managing finances with just the one income.
And so, yeah, talk a little bit about that, though, because you're definitely not alone. You were not alone, I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And single parents are still having, that transition taking place in their lives. So what was either the first frightening moment that you overcame, and how did you overcome it?
With regard to finances, the first frightening moment may have been the realization that I had less to work with, right? So looking at, while your situation may change, your needs don't change with regard to finances. You still need to eat. You still need to clothe your children. Your child or your children, you still need to send them to school. So the most frightening moment was when I sat down and realized that I had to shift because I no longer had that second income.
I can't get into your business, so I won't ask the question that I would ask that some, but this whole issue of child support and how that's calculated, right? And what they say for child support is that it's to go to the child, right? And so what does that mean? Does it mean that it only provides clothing for them? Does it incorporate, the housing cost, the electricity? What does that mean? And how was that a factor that you had to work through in your situation?
Yes. So yeah, I don't mind sharing it all if it's going to help somebody. So of course, child support wound up being much less than what I was getting from her dad before the divorce, because it's usually based off of their particular income and the when you go to court for it. But I do want to say too, the thing I had to learn was to take the emotion out of it, because initially when you're separating or the dynamics have changed, and this is just being transparent, and as a woman we can become emotional and get angry and just don't want to have anything to do with our partner for a while. But that's damaging to the child, right? If the other parent is able to contribute financially, allow them to do that, and if they are in the right space to be a good parent to the child, allow them to be that too. I never intentionally kept her away from her dad. So I'll say that too. No matter what our relationship was, don't ever put your emotion in with regard to your child. But as far as the child support is, yes, I was intentional about using it and setting that aside for her clothing, for her food. And it wasn't a lot, but I was intentional about setting it aside and making sure that it went towards her clothing. So I budgeted around that with regard to some of her needs.
So the household expenses were something you still had to kind of maneuver. And
Right.
so, yeah. So how did you do that?
So I had to make great sacrifices. I had to leave a 3-bedroom. We were living in an apartment at the time, to a 1-bedroom because that's all I could afford. We slept in a 1-bedroom, slept in the same bed because that was all I could afford at the time. So I had to make a lot of sacrifices. I can remember our first apartment was hardwood floors. There was no central air. There was not even a garbage disposal. It was like the bare minimum apartment. But I did what I had to do for me and my child. So I had to give up a lot of comforts when I became a single parent.
And then, of course, I don't know if child care is always an issue. And was that an issue as well?
Well, a lot of that. Yes, it is an issue. It wasn't an issue where I couldn't find it. It was finding the one I could afford,
Right.
without sacrificing her having optimum child care. So I would have to look for it near my job because, if I'm the only one that's going to be picking her up, I had to maneuver around that and then find one that was within my what I could afford to pay. And again, but it also be optimal for her.
So what new money habits did you develop, budgeting habits? How did you get from, survival stage to, to, I'm not sure what stage you got to after.
No, right? The ultimate goal for me was peace. And I'm just being honest. The ultimate goal was for me peace. That's why I was willing to be in that 1-bedroom apartment without all of the comforts. But I'm sorry, what was your question again?
So the first, some of the budgeting habits.
Oh, yeah, budget habits. So I'm sorry.
Here, some tips for single parents out there who are just, trying to make it.
Yeah. So the first thing is to be authentic and realistic about where you are, right? And being okay with that. And a lot of what I'm saying now, or I've learned now, I may not have been operating in it at the time because I was also, you're also dealing with the emotion of the whole transition, and the quote unquote loss of certain things. But I learned that it's okay. Well, I had to learn to let my ego go because a lot of times we purchasing things and buying things because it helps us to look a certain way, right? It increases our ego to other people. But I had to realize that my daughter was most important. She was my priority. So I had to make sure that she had everything she needed. Now, there were many times that I used credit because she went to schools across on the other side of the river, which I wanted her to have the things that the other kids had. So I had to stop doing that as well. Like, I can't be concerned about that. But I always want to make sure that she had everything that she needed. But the budgeting tips that I learned through that whole process was to be true and authentic with where I am, right? If I can't afford to buy the name brand toilet paper or paper towels, I would have to sacrifice and buy the store brand. If I couldn't afford to purchase those name brand shoes or whatever, or if I couldn't afford to purchase shoes or clothing for myself, I had to be okay with that and make sure that she had what she had. So that really helped me to hone in on your needs versus your wants, needs versus wants, right? Mm-hmm. And it was hard. It was hard.
I can imagine. Yeah. Well, I grew up in a single parent home as well. And, I hear my mother, you are echoing some of the things that I used to hear and still hear about the challenges that she faced. And so, when it came to, again, that survival, and we just finished talking to Hermond, who's a former colleague.
Yes.
Yeah. But what, were you able to actually create a budget for yourself? Were you able to kind of avoid like major debt? I'm asking a bunch of questions.
No, you good.
And then also when it comes to like your he's talking about, your your trust, your estate. You know, you got you're a single mom, still, a single mom with one daughter, who is going to have to, manage your care and what have you going forward. How are you facing all those things?
So, with regard to, say, I'll start with like life insurance. The one thing, now I didn't get a whole lot of financial education growing up in our household, but one thing, when we got of age, my mother made us all get that's me, my sister, my brother, get life insurance. Start life insurance. So I knew the importance of having life insurance. So I had always had that, even with my daughter. So I was fortunate enough to have it offered at my jobs. So, I didn't have to go searching for an insurance agent or whatever, but I took advantage on my job. I took advantage of the life insurance plans that they offered. Even if it was the lowest, whatever I could afford, I did that. And the retirement, I didn't always appreciate it, during those times, the importance of investing, like I heard Hermond mention during his interview. I didn't always take advantage of it. So I would highly suggest that any single mom or not would give as much as they can for their retirement, and always have life insurance. One of the worst things you can do is, it's already hard enough on the kid if you were to pass away before them, but to have to figure out how to bury you, how to now take care of themselves, when life insurance does all of that for you, right? It takes that burden from your family of trying to figure out how to bury you, and then how to live at least at the level that they were living at when you were alive. I was not always a good budgeter, and I have to admit that, even when I, was raising my daughter. And one thing, I really didn't even like the word budget, because it sounded so restrictive to me. So I tried to find another word, like spending plan or something like that. But I was just like cringe, because it just sounded so restrictive to me, which is probably another reason why I didn't always follow the budget, which, to your point of getting into debt, which I did eventually fall into a lot of debt. Because I didn't budget correctly. So oftentimes I found myself having to charge the groceries, because, I didn't have enough in cash in the checking account. So I would, that was a very challenging time, but I learned from that, like, that burden, that heavy feeling of owing somebody and owing so much money, and then having to pay so much interest on top of that. That kind of deterred me from continuing in that cycle. Just seeing all of this money just going out the window that I could have been saving.
Wow. Yeah. And was there, I can almost see as you talk, and I can see you sort of visualizing that period, or those periods in your life when you did face those challenges. And I'm going to assume that you did a lot of praying.
Absolutely, Denise. Yeah, absolutely. A whole lot of praying, and I have to say that God really did keep me, because I had family support, but again, this is where your pride and ego has to be set aside. If you need help, ask for help. But I was raised in my mom was a very strong woman. Though I lived in a 2-parent household, my mom was so back then the neighbors like, you don't tell everybody your business, and you don't, what I'm saying? There's all this, you just figure it out. So I did a lot of that, doing that, and having to realize that if you need help, ask for help. There's people out there that want to help you.
Yeah.
You never know until you ask.
So I'm going to assume, Melanee, now that you are, your daughter's on her own, is there anything that she's kind of looked back at you and said, thanks for sharing this with me, or thanks for telling me this, that now that, do you have grandchildren?
No. I have 2 wonderful great nephews, though.
Okay. So your daughter's still a single woman?
She's married. She's married, but no kids. She travels a lot. Yeah.
Oh, but let me ask you now, did she learn something from those experiences?
Let me say that your kids, whether you directly teach them or not, they learn from you, right? is much better at budgeting than I was. Even when I noticed when she was in college, and that maybe she had the experience of going away to college. She went to Miami University, so she was away from me. So she was much better at budgeting than I was at her age. Mm-hmm. And I have to admit, I don't remember actually sitting down with her saying, okay, this is how you balance a checkbook, da da da. I would have conversation with her about, like, if we can't purchase anything, this is why, or something like that. But to really sit down and teach her the financial literacy, like the bank, industrial bank teaches to various communities, I don't remember that, but I realize how so good she is with money, and she checks me even to this day now. Mom, do you really need that? Like, Mom, do you really need to purchase that? So she's much better at it than I was.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of winding up here, Melanee.
Oh, okay.
What kind of advice would you give? I mean, before we go, for somebody that's watching, is there any, one or two tidbits of advice that you would give to a single parent? And like I said, it could be a single mom or a single dad. So, yeah. What lessons learned would you want to share?
Well, the first lesson would be to let go of ego and pride. If you need help, ask for help, and always be authentic and honest about where you are. And it's okay. It doesn't last forever. Just stick to a plan, and you will succeed. Just be consistent in wanting, and you have to actually have dreams and desires that you want to fulfill, and don't forget your dreams, and include that in your budget if possible. And there's not, and I could say a whole lot of things, but I also learned that there's nothing too small. There's no amount too small to start saving. You can start with $5, because at the end of the year, that'll be something that you could say you accomplished. And the more times you are able to check in to notice things that you accomplished, the more encouraged you become. So be true, be honest and authentic about where you are. It's okay. It doesn't diminish you as a human being. You know what I mean? It doesn't make you less than. And also ask for help if you need it. DC has so many programs.
I can see, because they have you. I mean, we're letting folks know where to find you at Industrial Bank. So, do you all have programs there, or any kind of financial literacy programs that folks can tap into? And
yes. We provide free financial education sessions to various organizations, including carceral institutions, correctional institutions, correctional facilities. We provide a whole program for those who are currently or formerly incarcerated. We teach schools. We go into churches, and on our website we have a financial education platform called Enrich, which has a plethora of information and videos and articles all about managing your finances. So I encourage you all to check that out on our website, and it's under our financial education drop-down menu, and I see the link is in the chat. And reach out to us if you have any questions about financial education or want to attend one of our sessions. We like to have at least 10 people in each session. But if you just reach out, because if it's a church, a school, nonprofit, for-profit, government entities, and we've been doing this since 2016. We created our own curriculum. And we're excited and very proud of that program, our program.
That's fantastic. That's good. I mean, I'm glad to know that. I know they're going to come there and say, where's that lady Melanee? I want to talk to her, because I'm a single parent and I want to know some things that I need to know to.
Sure. I can put my email. I can provide my email in the chat, or I don't know how to do that on this.
Okay. Well, no, they can reach out to you at Industrial.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'll be great. And anything else? Any other tips you have before we sign off?
So I'm old school. I know there are a lot of apps out there, but I'm old school. I use Excel spreadsheet and a notebook that I keep track of my finances and my spending plan, as opposed to a budget, which is basically the same thing. But do what works for you, right? This is your journey. So do what works for you. Do what works best for you.
that piece of paper and that pencil with an eraser on it.
Yes, Denise. And my little trusty calculator on my phone. Yes.
I was gonna say, hey, if in case you need a pencil sharpener, there's one right there behind my head, so we can share that.
Absolutely.
Melanee Woodard, I want to thank you so very much for being with us today, and for being opening up to us and letting us hear some of the challenges that you face, and I know so many others have faced and are facing and will face. So thanks again, and we appreciate Industrial Bank being a part of this conversation and providing resources for the community. So thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All righty.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too.
So what we're going to do now, I think, is turn over to our recording with which is a pre-taped conversation that James Wright has had with Raven Paris and Tony Parker. We hope with introducing or discussing their upcoming Wealth Summit. Again, another place where you can go to get that financial literacy information that you need. It's all around us, folks. So there's no reason for us to really be suffering. The next time we go through a government shutdown, the big promise that we need to make to ourselves is that I am not going through this again. I got to take whatever measures I can to make sure that I have some kind of plan. It may not last throughout, but at least sometimes, like as Hermond Palmer said, you feel a little bit stronger, a little bit better, knowing that you have at least put some things in place to get you through the storm. So I want to thank you for tuning in today, and I want you to stay tuned again for our interview with James Wright and Raven Paris, and Tony Parker. And we will see you next week. Have a wonderful weekend. It's a lot going on in DC, folks. Be safe. If you go to the No Kings March downtown, please be safe. However, you can always go over to Union Temple Baptist Church on Saturday. They are celebrating Unifest and the 30th anniversary of the Million Man March. There's so much happening in DC, and if you want some crabs, go down 2 blocks. There's a Heart of the City Candles and another organization, Never Landing. They're having a crab feast right there on 13th and Marion Barry Avenue. So check that out. Again, it's a whole lot going on. It's supposed to be a beautiful day tomorrow. Take advantage of it. And remember, we here at the Washington Informer are here for you. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hello. So good to see you all.
So good to have us here. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you. How are you feeling?
Feeling great. Good to be back and talking to you again. We got some exciting stuff in the works.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, let's get started. What are you all doing now at this great company, CEO Empowerment Network?
So CEO Empowerment Network is our nonprofit, and it's centered around providing free education preparation courses as well as certifications that our youth can use immediately to start gaining income, get more experience, and getting into their careers.
So we have our annual events, our fundraising events, but for our youth specifically, we like to bring a lot of our powerhouses into one space so they can have panel discussions, and we give away money so they can open up bank accounts and have pitch competitions, etc. So we have our Youth Wealth Summit that is coming up. That's why we're here to, really get into those, and why, we need your youth to be a part of it.
Exactly. And speaking of your youth to be a part of it, we're actually doing our first ever Youth Ambassadors program, where the youth will actually have a say-so in how we run the program, what we talk about, and what they want to hear about. So that's something definitely exciting that we are incorporating for the first time.
And also the first time we're actually partnering with Baltimore City Public Schools for our Youth Wealth Summit too. So we're really excited about that.
That is fantastic. I'm curious, how did you decide to get into the space of youth financial literacy, youth finances, etc.?
Well, I can definitely speak to that. We just know when we were growing up, it was a lot of things that we didn't know that we weren't aware of.
Right.
And as we grew, we figured out okay, well, if I would have knew this 10 years ago, I could probably, be a lot further than I am now. And what it's most about is just exposing the youth, whether they like what we're exposing them to or they don't like it. The biggest point is that they know. And even if, like I said, if they don't like it, they know that they don't like it. They can come to something else. And we just want to expose them to as many opportunities and knowledge as possible so they can make informed decisions about their future.
Yeah.
At the summit, you touched on some things. Could you just delve a little bit deeper in terms of the activities of what the young people will be doing in terms of finance?
Yeah, so we partner with some of our bank partners such as CQ, and they open up bank accounts for them where they receive $100 for each bank account that they open. We also partner up with First National Bank, which are another set of good partners of ours, and they provide financial education workshops. And then outside of that too, we have panel discussions that feature some of our favorite entrepreneurs and influencers that are in the DMV area that can really come and really educate them on what those opportunities are and what they have access to. And more importantly, like Tony was speaking of, just giving them access to people who they probably only see on their Instagram or hear on the radio or see on their television, but now having them in the rooms with those people is what they have to look forward to that. Then on top of it, they get to eat good, they get to drink good. Shout out to Big Bean Coffee, who are another set of good partners of ours who will be supplying a smoothie activation. So everyone will be able to get their good drinks, because I feel like even with good finances, you need good health and wellness as well. They all tie in together. So those are some of the things that, our youth have to look forward at our Youth Wealth Summit.
And specifically, we are going to be focused on financing, budgeting, saving, investing.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much everything financial literacy, just to give them a heads up. I like to talk a lot about buying a business instead of just working at the business, and just to let them know that it's a possibility. The more they hear it, the more they'll think that, okay, I can actually do this. And that's all I want to do is just open their eyes.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, James. Also, this is the first year too where we'll be able to give away student service learning hours, because a lot of our youth that are seniors at Baltimore City, they need those service learning hours in order for them to graduate. So now you have this student-led program that's put together, whereas you come there, you get to learn, but you also get to have those student service learning hours to help you graduate as well.
And a stipend.
For our youth ambassadors. They get paid.
Money. That's nice. That's very nice. Wow. Yes. When I was a teenager 100 years ago, what we would do is that we were told to get a job. You go to school, and after school you go and get a job.
Yeah.
Is that a message that you all are sending in terms of their finance? Get a job. What message are you sending?
Well, it depends. Well, definitely get a job, right? But I feel like you don't have to graduate to get a job. While you're actually in school, you can already start building the business and tap into your entrepreneurship skills while you're here to start developing the money already while you're in school. And then, of course, if you want to keep your education going, go to college, but now you have this side hustle that can eventually turn into another form of profit, full-time position, or maybe just another stream of income on the side while you are, going to school and doing your thing. I feel like times have changed so much over the years. Technology has evolved, so it allows you to do more than one thing at once, but still be able to have streams of income that you're able to make.
So yeah, the goal is never to tell people, don't go to college and get a job. It's just that you have other options.
Yes.
And some of them may be better than going to college for 4 years and getting a job, or it's up to you. We just want them to know they have options. You don't have to go straight to college. You can buy the business. You can start the business. You can start investing as soon as you get to high school.
The thing about money is that money is not sexy a subject to talk about. I mean, it's sexy in terms of lifestyle and cars and that sort of thing. But when you're talking about stocks and bonds, you're talking about cryptocurrency and things like that, it can be kind of monotonous. How do you make it interesting for these young people?
That's a good question. And the goal is to show them the future of what they're doing. If you don't know that it takes time and it takes work and it takes energy, then you don't know that you're going to have to do all these things to be successful. And ultimately, we want them to know that you can do all of these things, but you do have to work.
Yeah.
You do have to learn more about your skills. And once they learn about the potential, the profit, and they learn about budgeting, it's not all about getting your money right away. It's about your money growing, having access to it. So that's really what we try to instill upon them. We use a lot of real life scenarios. If you would have bought Apple for $1 20 years ago, you have $1 million. So we use a lot of those type scenarios just to try to connect the dots. That's not an actual factual break, but we do use those types of things, Google's, Instagram, things that they are into. We tell them that if it's something you like, that's better that you invest in it too, because you know about it. You got an understanding of how many other people like it. So it's just about making a connection to their everyday lives.
What is the conversation that you have with these young people about generational wealth? That's a relatively new term when it comes to Black people in this country.
Yeah, I feel like it's something that we have to start thinking about now, because I feel like our community, such as, you know, the minority communities, we are a little bit behind, right? And I feel like a lot of other races and cultures, they have been setting up for for generations and generations year before us. But now is the time that we need to start thinking about how we can set up for our kids beyond just your household. But now, once you're no longer here, what do you have to leave behind, right? So I feel like creating a legacy, something that is that will live beyond you, is something that we need to be talking about more of. Like, what is it that what you do today makes an impact for your future and for your kids' future tomorrow? And what can you do to add to that legacy, but that will also help build wealth for your family? So we like to talk about trust. We personally have now set up in trust funds, right? I feel like back in the day we heard about trust babies, or you know, trust fund babies, but it's like, what is that, right? So actually educating them on what it takes to actually get a trust, what goes into that trust. So now when we talk about investing into properties, investing into land, and having those things that can go into your trust, but also just having investment properties that can stay around for you, for your kids, for your next kids, they all, now I feel like that's something that you're seeing people do. They're gifting their kids with investment properties, or, you know, just setting up a high yield savings account, you know, that can kind of like stack up and generate more and more income over time. All that can be passed down to help build that generation wealth. And I feel like those are examples, but did you want to like elaborate more on that?
No, that's pretty much it. And like I said, I like to connect with the children where they are. And everybody has heard about trust fund babies for years. But our understanding of that is you have to be very wealthy, very rich. You know, you have to have all of these sorts of different things, but that's just not the case. True. Anybody can build a trust. And at that point, you have a trust fund baby. And even if the trust is, you know, in a low amount, it's just the fact that that mindset can adjust your whole line of thinking. Like, okay, I might have a trust fund for my kid and it's only worth $100, but now my mindset is so that I have a trust, I can build on it, and I can make it more profitable. So yeah, it's about the life insurance things, just, you know, like she said, just exposing them to things like trust and life insurance that we traditionally
life insurance, talking to them about that. Like, I feel like I just learned as I was an adult that you can actually pull from your life insurance while you're still alive. A lot of times we just hear about life insurance and it's used once you die, but they have life insurance policies that accumulate money over the years. So you're able to pull from it while you're still here. You get what I'm saying? So things like that is things that you can educate them on, because that's something that also gets passed down to generations after generations. Because guess what? Once, depending on what that life insurance policy is, once you pass away, those millions or thousands of dollars, however much you put into your life insurance policy, that now gets passed down to the next generation, So it's just exposing them to the information that's out there. But a lot of us haven't taken the time to actually do the research about it, or we aren't taught it. So now it's up to us, now that we know these things, to pass that education on to our youth and our communities.
Interesting. The median cost of a house in the United States is $450,000, according to Zillow. Now you're in Baltimore City, so it's a little bit cheaper.
Yeah,
but it's still kind of difficult to get a house now. What are you telling these young people in terms of home ownership?
I can speak to that directly.
He's a realtor.
You say it's a little difficult to get a house. I'll just say it may take a little bit more work, and you may have to start sooner. We actually partner with a nonprofit here in Baltimore, and their specific goal is getting teenagers into home ownership. Even if you work at McDonald's or if you work at a shoe store, it's all about your income and your debt. So if you have less debt and you have income, that'll make your buying power more. In addition to that, a big thing that's important for everybody all the time is credit scores. So that's another thing that we like to teach them about.
$1 million house is not what it used to be. It doesn't have the same value as it is. So what you just said definitely squares with what is going on in today's world, even though you're in Baltimore City, and Baltimore City has a larger stock of housing that's more reasonably priced, certainly, than Washington, D.C. What are your closing thoughts in terms of why youth should come to your event and the value of it?
Well, the real reason why you should come to our event, because they will be excited, and they will be more in tuned and more prepared to do the things in the future. We like to make sure that they have a good balance and that you leave with actual tangible items that you can start using right away. So it's a reason. I mean, one of the reasons they should come is to get a free bank account,
Okay.
a $300 bank account. So you can't deny that. We, like she said, we're also going to have good food, very interactive, very expressive workshops with a lot of important people that are notable throughout Baltimore that the kids will be looking up to. So that's really why they should come, get the expertise, get the knowledge, get the food, get the bank account.
And then beyond that too, I feel like beyond just the Youth Wealth Summit, going into 2026, we'll have about 8 free events next year for underserved youth that are in Baltimore City. And the workshops will change, they will vary, but it's all giving you the tools to be able to set yourself up for success. So beyond that, definitely just make sure that they keep up to date with our Instagram. We are CEO Empowerment Network on there. But yes, but definitely the Wealth Summit too, for more of our Wealth Summit events. But honestly, just go to the website too. I feel like we'll always have our events updated on the website, which is ceo-en.org for all of our events.
And this will take place on
November 18th.
November 18th for our Youth Wealth Summit with Baltimore City Public Schools.
Okay, where at specifically?
Oh, so that part will not be publicized yet, I don't think.
Okay. No problem.
But
it will be in the Baltimore City area.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you to Tony and Raven Parker of the CEO Empowerment Network. And thank you for being on Let's Talk.
Thank you for having us.